All right, good morning.
Good morning.
And today I'm glad to be here to announce and introduce Gordon McFadden. I call him Gordy. Gordon and his family were active here for many, many years, and he was one of the founding board members, along with Darcy and Dean Hobson and Nancy McFadden and Gary Meisner. So he'll talk a little bit more about his involvement in that and how that ties into some of what he's going to share about today. But Kent Bowerman was actually the one who had the idea of, hey, Gordy and his son's company, I know they're supporters of Imagine Housing and have been involved in some community stuff on the east side. What about, he says, Dan, I don't have his current phone number. Can you give him a call? So I did reach out to Gordy, and he was thankfully enthusiastic about being able to come and share. When I was doing some work for Friends of Youth, I believe we connected, and he had shared a little bit about what MN was doing on the east side, and so I volunteered to reach out and bring him aboard so he could talk a little bit about that. But to get things started, Gordy, maybe go back to your involvement at St. Andrews and kind of how that story might influence what you're going to share about what MNCH.
Great, I'll do that. First of all, thank you for inviting us here. Wendy, my wife's here. And it all really started at St. Andrews. This whole, and developed into corporate giving at some point, but it started here with 4 people on a board trying to bring low-income housing to the east side. But our family participated and was involved with St. Andrews for 17 years, from 1980 to 1997, and then I got a job in Portland and we moved away. Our children were confirmed here. We took family vacations with other members. We had Friday night groups. We learned so much about giving, personal giving, and that developed into other wonderful things as we kind of grew. And the St. Andrews Housing Group, when it got started, we started understanding not only what giving was about, but how could you leverage your giving into a community and make it more important to people and teach them the opportunity of giving. And so what St. Andrews started out with was 4 people, and Dan went through the names of the initial board. A few of them are here today, which I'm very thankful of, each bringing different backgrounds and values with the understanding that we need to do something about homelessness, low-income costs of living on the east side. So we focused on Bellevue and we said, we want to develop something here. And we got funding from the church. Darcy reminded me today that it was $2,000 for putting together the paperwork and other things, and we had our ingenuity and we drove that. And ultimately what happened, I got a few handouts here that I'm going to talk about. Ultimately what happened is St. Andrews Housing Group turned into Imagine Housing. And today Imagine Housing has 15 properties, 639 permanent apartments, and almost 1,600 individuals living in those apartments. And in their pipeline, they have 5 more under development, which would mean they'll have 20 properties. Those properties would bring another 500 people roughly into 500 apartments and another 1,500 individuals. So what started here as the idea of giving back and focused on doing something in the community has turned into an incredible, focused, low-income housing group on the east side. And we were talking about the focus there was many people can't afford to live on the east side, and so bringing low-income housing here was really critical. And I'll hand this out because here's what's in the pipeline. And one of the things I was going to mention is how the world works, that it's gone for full circle, that now St. Andrews is going to have a 100-unit complex right next door, and it just keeps on giving. So that was kind of how our family got started with giving, with this small group at St. Andrew's Church. In 2011, my son came to me and said he wanted to start a home building company. And they started it kind of on a shoestring, building 2 homes. And then as they grew, they became pretty successful quickly, and they're focused on building in the Bellevue area. And part of their initiative was to take profits from the home building business and reinvest into the community. And so, number one, we supported St. Andrew's Housing Group to the degree we could. But we said, wait a minute, what other needs are on the east side? And we found an organization, actually a church-based organization, Jubilee Reach, which most of their funding comes from members from churches throughout the east side. They started initially with major donations from the Presbyterian Church, but then expanded. And so they have this base of people who want to give. And we decided, why don't we tie into this, and how do we then teach all the people in our company about giving? We have 170 employees now, 170 families that we support. What if we could do something to teach them? But I want to take a minute and talk initially about Jubilee Reach in this community. So they're our neighbors here at St. Andrews. They have an office and a facility about 10 blocks from here. And they have 4 pillars that they kind of base their giving on. We knew nothing about Jubilee Reach before we reached out to try to find the organization. They have a big center over here that is a food bank that supports hundreds of families on a regular weekly basis. They also run ESL classes. They bring doctors and medical people in to help families. So that's one pillar. Their second pillar is they have a thrift store. I know a lot of us give things away to local thrift organizations. They have a thrift store in Eastgate, and that store is not only used as a revenue generator, but if families move in, low-income families, they need furniture, they give them vouchers so they can go in and take their vouchers and exchange it for clothing or furniture that we all have donated. So that's a second pillar. The third pillar, and this one shocked me a little, is they supply coaches and counselors to public schools. I didn't know that Bellevue Middle School has no sports activities. The sports activities in Bellevue Middle School, they have soccer now and they have some other sports. Jubilee Reach pays for and supplies all the coaches for those activities. What's really odd is here is a Christian-based organization working with the schools, which is kind of unheard of in today's world, and being openly accepted. They also supply counselors in the schools that they pay for to help entry-level families integrate their children into the high schools and do prep work for college, etc. So that was the third pillar. And the fourth pillar was their community building. They have an event called Festival of Trees where they have an annual auction. That auction raises $1.4 million. That was what they did last year, and it brings in probably 600 people to a big event focused on the east side. So, getting back to how our corporation got involved, we saw this as an opportunity. We said, but we want to do more than just give you money. We want to teach our people how to give. And we came up with 3 unique ideas. One was, one of the pillars in Jubilee Reach is there are a lot of people in Bellevue who are aging in place in their homes. They can't afford to keep their homes up. The city of Bellevue gets requests, which they process, and now Jubilee Reach will pick these requests up, rank them, and
they take volunteers to come in and either refurbish the house. We have done 30 projects now with our team of 160 people. We give every individual, you have a choice. You can work in the office today, or you can go work at a Jubilee Ridge house. So we have project managers who are construction people. We have replaced rotted beams. We generally do yard cleanup, and we have our accountants working with our project managers. And last year we had 3 separate homes that we took a day each and put our people in. Now, what it teaches us is the need that it teaches us that we have 170 employees that find there is a need in Bellevue that they didn't know about, and they're participating. We have accountants working with project managers, and they're all working side by side, and it really is a team building effort. So that's one. Number 2, we're a major sponsor of their Festival of Treats, so we pay a fee to support that event with all the proceeds going to Jubilee Reach. And the third thing is we have now built 4 homes. All the proceeds, the profits and proceeds from those homes go to Jubilee Reach. So, and we've even extended that further. I get excited about this because it's just, you create ideas and they get a life of their own. So it's gotten further. Now we have subcontractors. We have suppliers. The suppliers go to their companies and ask, can you donate refrigerators? Can you donate sinks? We have suppliers that donate labor in building homes. So what happens is that lowers the cost and all the proceeds go to Jubilee Reach. And so what started as an idea that we want to give back, we tried to expand beyond just you or I giving money, and how do we expand it and make it a team building thing for our organization, part of our culture. And culture is so critical in this give back. In today's world, people want to find a way to give back to the community. And all we have done is given them an opportunity. And the funny thing is, when you ask somebody, do you want to go in the office and do accounts payable, or do you want to go with your friends and work on helping someone in need? No one's in the office on those days. So that's kind of a summary of how it has moved from the start of St. Andrews through. I was thinking Dan, as we got involved here. So where does the idea of giving come from? And for me, it came from when I was 6 years old, those little envelopes you had in church that you put your quarters and nickels in, and you licked them and you wrote the date. The Lutheran church in Walla Walla, where I grew up, would give you this box, 1 envelope a week. And your parents would say, well, you got to earn some money and put it in and take something in. And ultimately, that was the first giving I recognized. And then learning from your parents that they gave. And it has become infectious. So, pretty exciting how that's developed into what it is today.
Yeah, and so your involvement did you explain exactly what that is?
Well, in 2011, my son said, I want to start a company, and I helped him fund the starting of the company, and he gave me a job, and my job is I'm the intern. I have not received a promotion or a paycheck in 14 years, but I'm still the intern. I do show up and I coach and mentor young people, managers coming into the company. I have an opportunity to be on the board and do strategic planning and financial planning and help this young team grow their business.
And so, are there other tangible ways that you can see or feel what it means to the employees, that and where you can see that it's becoming part of the culture?
Yeah, that's a good question, because we do employee health surveys every year, and what we find is, speaking of tangible, this evaluation that they're working for a company that gives back. That's where they want to be in today's culture. today's culture isn't just about doing a job. You can select the company you want to be at, and you want to go to a culture that has a positive impact on both the work environment and the community in which you live. So these people have choices to go anywhere to work, but they're choosing to work places that they feel good about, that make them feel good. And what we find is this commitment to the organizations we commit to is another reason why people want to stay with us longer and be part of that.
And do your vendors that you mentioned, are they involved in other things with other companies, or is this kind of unique for them too?
It's totally unique for them. They have never, for us to go out and ask them, first they shook their head, and said, and then we said, well, maybe there's some things you could do that wouldn't cost you anything or very little. How can we create together? And what happened is now they're coming in and saying, I have ideas. Here's something we can do to help you. And they're now invited to the dinner, and they're bringing their family and their workforce and buying a table and being there to support the organization. So it's quite infectious when you get something good going that's fun for everyone involved.
So I'm confused because you're talking about Jubilee Reach and Imagine Housing and M&N, and so we talk about what you're talking about right now, but support the organization. Are you talking about M&N?
Yeah, that's good. I'm talking about as a company, our commitment to the community is a big part of our culture. And so all these things in giving, and we build a house and the proceeds go to Jubilee Reach. We're involved with Imagine Housing Group, and we have people involved there. So we use these as areas where we can focus and have deliverables back to, one, the community, but also back to the company, because the more you get involved, it builds.
And please, other questions?
So when you say proceeds, do you mean a percentage of the profit?
All the profits.
All the profits?
All the profits from the deal. That's why if we get someone to donate a refrigerator that would cost us $1,000, that money goes directly to Jubilee Reach. If we get somebody to donate time, we had one person donate all the tiles and installed all the tiles. That was an expensive proposition, but we didn't pay for that, so the profits went to Jubilee Reach.
In this selected home?
In one home. We've done 4 homes now.
Okay, so that would be really good for the community to know, because in my neighborhood, it's not popular.
Yes.
I mean, you buy a
Well,
house,
here's an interesting thing.
and if they knew in my neighborhood that 4 of the homes that you built, the proceeds are going to
Yes.
Jubilee Reach, that would make a big difference in people's attitude towards your company.
You know
Because
that-
your company is not
Yeah.
well perceived.
No, and I agree that. I think any home builder is challenged by that today. And I will tell you that the news media doesn't want to report the good information. There's no reason to report that these profits. We've done it for 4 years and never had an article on anything.
Yeah, nobody knows.
but-
It's a secret.
Yeah, so the challenge is, we believe that over time as a company, if we do good in the community, that word will spread. But I think your point is exactly right. Exactly right. That's the challenge we're confronted with.
Because we know that you're buying houses that are a little over $1 million and you're selling them for over $4 million.
Yeah.
But that's not all profit because you've got to build it.
Right,
Obviously.
right.
Yeah, so that's very
Exactly.
impressive.
And usually, most of the houses we're buying are going to have a hard time selling on the market. They generally are requiring $250,000 to $500,000 in repairs to get them up to standard. So that's interesting. But the point you're making is absolutely the case. Does a market know that if we take a tree down, we plant 100 trees? No, the market doesn't know that, but we've let the word out, but nobody wants to pick that up and communicate it. But if we take 1 tree down, we plant 100 trees, either in the community of Bellevue or in a selected community. Because sometimes you have to take trees down to have the footprint for the house. Maybe it's something about today's market that people would rather hear bad news than good news?
That's for sure.
I kind of wonder.
Nobody wants good news.
But
Bad news always sells.
the point is, all you can do is what you can do and live your life and build the company on the values that you believe in. And communicate those where you can, but it may not get picked up.
We have signs all over my neighborhood.
Yes,
And
yes.
you could add on the sign, you know, in 2025, such how much profit went to
Yeah,
Jubilee Reach. That would be, people would read that
good.
when they walk
I
by.
think I'll take that back to the,
Within my block, there's 2 eminent
Yes.
houses being built.
yes,
And, you know, more, we get a couple blocks away.
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
And the need is there for housing at all levels. So, you know, so from our perspective, by being involved in low-income housing and the things we're doing there, we think we're trying to help and offset. But in the new houses we're building, we're bringing in families with 2 to 5 children who are living and working in the community, and that's been a real positive thing. But I'm glad you brought that all up, because that is the reality.
Right.
Yeah,
And with the new zoning that's gone in place where you can build multiple dwelling units on a single-family home, have you looked at, instead of one big house, you might have a duplex or fourplex?
we're doing that now in Seattle, where
Yeah.
we're building ADUs, separate ADUs with houses. The rulings have not been unilaterally accepted, and every borough here is different, in Yarrow Point or Bellevue East, or you have different rules. So we are trying to build multiple housing wherever we can, but it's difficult because also you sometimes need to go through lot line adjustment and other things which are, it's more intricate than it's perceived to be. So yes, we are.
I know that in the master plan communities that are here in Bellevue that have homeowner association and CC&Rs, then those take precedent over the zoning rules the city has
Yes.
recently passed, so you can't go in and subdivide a lot. But in places that don't have that, or those CC&Rs have been aren't used anymore, not vacant, you know, then it falls back to the city's guidelines. Which
Yeah, and you're absolutely right, and we're doing that wherever we can.
Yeah.
It extends the timeline, it requires a little more work in putting it together, but it is a reality, and I think it's a good thing that the cities are trying to set that up to get more housing and give them lots.
Yeah.
Parking is something, if you're going to have a multiple family unit on what was a single family lot. I've been attending city council meetings, and they have a whole group of people that are talking about what the parking requirements are for new things. But I would hope that you would have 2 spaces for each family in any.
Yeah, and you know that, you make a very good point, because, and I'll take Seattle in particular, because Seattle doesn't require any parking on the lots. And the reality is there's no room anymore on the streets, and so that becomes a challenge. That the idea is to move people out of cars. And you can agree with that or not, but if you can't find parking, you're probably going to get out of cars. And the east side hasn't been that aggressive on that. And in our case, all the homes have adequate parking on site, not on the street. But it's a reality of the future, I think.
We are getting a little
Good.
bit on in our session, so can you talk about the segue between the focus in Jubilee Reach and all the work there, and how you got started and your focus on community giving, and then what the different forms of involvement with Imagine Housing are now?
Okay, I'm going to start with Imagine Housing, then I'll come to Jubilee Reach. On Imagine Housing, it's really interesting because when we all started it as St. Andrews Housing Group, it took a lot of upfront capital just to get things going. And now that Imagine Housing is up and going, all of their federal, state, and local grants cover the construction. They cover the purchase of the land, the building. What it doesn't cover is administrative overhead. So by supporting them with administrative overhead, it keeps the organization going. So I call that leverage. We get a lot of leverage on the dollar we invest. So if we give them money, because they need money to operate, so we give them money to operate, and then they build all these wonderful facilities. So that's a little easier. In the case of Jubilee Reach, every year they have to raise all the money to keep the organization going. There is no federal grants or federal money, so to speak of. And so that's a different thing. And in the case of Jubilee Reach, the good news for us is we can have personal involvement with all of our employees. They're very creative in new ways. We can reach out in the community. I mean, on average, the last year we went into 5 homes that we reconditioned. All of those homes were owned by people who were retired, could no longer afford to live there or make improvements. And so that became a new way for us to get back and get involved with that. So we've really moved more towards Jubilee Reach because of our ability to get more involved.
Yeah, volunteer opportunities.
That's
right. So I know you were talking a little bit about the project that will be here, and
Louder, Dan, louder.
yeah, the housing project that will be here in
Yeah.
St. Andrews, and what kind of opportunity do you see in terms of MN support that might apply not only to this project, but is there thought or there are opportunities that are different in supporting Imagine Housing as churches are now able to, in Bellevue, are able to use their property or portions of it for multifamily?
Well, we've offered them help in a number of different ways if we can be of benefit. We have architects, we have project managers. They're really in single family homes though, as opposed to multiple dwellings. So that becomes a little more difficult because of how we operate. But I was going to turn to this property here, since you brought it up. They are so excited because they're putting more 3 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms in this facility than they ever had in any of their projects, which means the dream we had early on to house families, low-income families, is really coming to fruition here because you all made the land available. It's going to be a beautiful facility. So I don't know if that answers your
Yeah.
I have a related question.
Yes.
I remember you telling a story early on when we first met, that you served on a committee at St. Andrews that was to try and see what we could do about helping people that don't have homes, the homeless. But we weren't, that language wasn't part of it at the time. But there was something about a duplex that we rented as a congregation. Are you familiar with that?
No, I don't remember.
Okay, never mind.
Yeah. I don't remember.
One of the things that I know we, at least in circles, have talked about as it relates to this project is at some point, what can the outreach and the volunteer opportunities and same things you're searching for to have your people be involved, what kind of crossover will there be between the church and the community that will be next door? And I don't think we have really dug into that at this point, but
Well, I think
some of the things that you guys are doing are things that will be.
Well, and I think that should be a conversation of the people in church. As an example, you've got a facility here that has a lot of space available Monday through Friday, and at one time there was a preschool here. Now you're going to have 100 families living right next door. Not only should they become parishioners here, which would be great if they would, What if their children could be in a preschool, a low-cost preschool to help those working families? Those kinds of ideas will kind of permeate. I'll also make one other point that I think is an important takeaway for me. The purpose of living is for all of us to do our part. Why are we on this planet? How can we impact? Whatever little thing, it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean you have to build a house and get profits. It starts with donating to a cause, giving some of your time. And I think if we all look at what is the purpose of our life, it's wonderful how we can not only, we have to work hard and we have to exist, but how do we give back? And then how can we impact other people and educate them? So that's my goal.
You're here. Yeah, I'm really impressed with M&N and what you've done there. I mean, like you say, 150 employees. Well, first, that's incredible growth.
Yeah.
That you've been able to do that as a firm.
Yeah.
And
Other questions, comments?
Well, a quick observation.
Yeah.
You can imagine as this congregation leaned in way back when St. Andrew's Housing Group was started and got involved, and for this project going next door, our involvement was more than making the land available. This congregation identified the focus on families. We identified the focus on how much parking was going to be, how the land was to be laid out, what colors was going to be used, and how we would integrate. So this is the Imagine Housing is providing the financing and construction, but this congregation is leaning heavily into how that community fits in our neighborhood. And so it's not just here's some land, what are you going to do with it? But it's our, we've been actively involved, and that's how this congregation supported that project, was knowing.
And that's wonderful. You're talking about the community and how
Right.
the community gets involved. And then I take Imagine Housing and I look at Jubilee Reach being 5 blocks away, and a number of their services will also be used by the people living there.
Yeah.
So we are a community, and there are these wonderful things going on, and it behooves all of us to know what they are so we can advise people on how to be involved and take advantage of that and have wholesome lives.
Yeah.
Wholesome lives. And thanks to this church for having the sensitivity and understand we got this beautiful piece of property that could be used for good.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to see that actually get complete.
Yeah.
Did you have anybody have any other questions? Sure.
Yeah, so some people can't read it, but it says, thank you for your vision and generosity. Jubilee Reach is thanking M&N Homes. Reach the Need Lake Hills 2021 was an amazing success. Can you explain that to us? What the Reach the Need Lake Hills, what is that?
Lake Hills was where the house was built, and I think the need was Jubilee Reach's need. So by building in Lake Hills, we created a home for a family that moved in, and then they benefited, I think is what they're probably relating to. We supported their needs for capital.
So you donated the profits from that house to
All to Jubilee Reach, yes.
Okay.
Yes. We've done that with 4 different homes now, and yeah.
We've talked about low-income housing. The Bellevue used to be a place where middle-income people could afford.
Exactly.
What about middle-income housing? When we moved here, my husband was a Boeing engineer and I had been a teacher. And the neighborhood around here was Boeing engineers and teachers. They can't afford to live here anymore.
That's the challenge. You're absolutely right. The whole middle income side is challenged as well. I can remember when most kids getting out of college could think about buying a home before they were 30. Those are the challenges we're confronted everywhere. So,
Even, I found out in England too. I spoke to somebody who was just over here on a trip. We were riding a bus together. And he said, same
Yeah.
problem in England.
I think it's everywhere.
Question?
Yeah, so these are the 4 houses that are done. Are there other proposed properties or other projects projects?
Yes, we have another one now that is in permitting, will be the next. We try to build one every 2 years because you have to take it through permitting and whatever. And so we have the next one in the hopper, so to speak, and we're currently doing the architectural work on that and putting it together. So thanks for asking that question.
Sure. Last question.
You might not want this to be public knowledge, but what kind of profit do you make when you sell a house for $4 million?
Well, I will tell you,
$1 million?
I'll tell you that 4 years ago, it was very good. It probably was 20%, 15%. Now, last year, we had 5 houses that lost money when we built. Here's what's happened. Selling prices have gone down. Construction costs have gone up 14 to 18%. And so the margin on building houses has shrunk to the point that we had a number of homes that made no money. Our average margin now is about 8 to 9% on a $3.5 million home. The challenge for us it's good you asked the question, challenge for us is if this doesn't come back, we have to question what are we doing going forward? Can we even afford to continue to build homes? Because inflation has impacted us, and as you all read in the newspaper, housing prices have been crushed to a degree. So we're challenged by that. Good question. And there was one more.
I'll throw this dirty word in. Small homes?
Yes.
Has that ever been a consideration?
We are doing small homes. We're doing homes that fit the market. We're doing small homes in Seattle.
Okay.
And we currently have 7 under construction in Seattle, and those are average square footage is 25 to 20, we call it 25 to 2,700 square feet, 3-bedroom, but you're probably talking about smaller homes than that. And if the city rules, your comment, I think, or question earlier was, or yours was, having multiple homes on one lot, then you will have even smaller homes. So yes, as the city set up the jurisdictions and the rules, we'll try to create that kind of living environment for people. And that's probably going to be the new starter home, right? That people can afford to get into. I mean, if you look at the average price of a lot in Seattle or Bellevue, in Seattle it's probably $1 million now to buy a lot, to tear down a house, to build a house on. So that's challenging. And in the Eastside, it's probably $1.4 million just for the lot. The land is the biggest factor in and they aren't making any more as far as I understand. Well, this has been fun.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for the invitation.
Good to see you after many years.
Good to see all these good friends, and appreciate it very much. And appreciate the questions.